Hello, this is Wyatt Jackson of Wyatt Jackson 2.0. I am excited about this interview. The Dennis Kimbrough piece is foundational because, bottom line, the man has worked with everybody. And this interview is very special because this is with Erin Patton. And he is the guy who worked with Michael Jordan on creating the Jordan brand. Michael commissioned Erin to sit down with him and brainstorm on what he could come up with for a product. So we're talking huge interview. I had the opportunity to meet Erin Patton at a networking conference in Cleveland, Ohio, and then we did some phone stuff, and it looked like, he was in a lot of ways giving me his insider stuff, and I was just looking at it like I wanted to interview him just for my own personal growth. And it turns out that this man is now doing some amazing things in the industry. He has a company called the Mastermind Group, or what he calls TMG, and it's based on actually the principles of Think and Grow Rich. Now, the interesting thing about him, when I met him, he had already worked with Jordan. He had already helped Jordan become a huge success with his sneaker brand. And then after I met with him, he went back to school actually and got an executive MBA and became like, now he is really blowing up, and he bases his company's success in part on the hip-hop mentality. He has what he calls 7 ciphers, and he's going to talk about it in this interview. 7 ciphers where whenever he has a product that he wants to launch with a client and they want him to help them market their product, he takes their product through 7 ciphers. Incredible information. You will learn a lot. This man has helped major brands connect with Generation X and the suburban kids, and phenomenal. So you are going to have a treat here. Once again, get pen and paper out, pause it, go back, listen to it over and over again. I'm telling you, this is worth something. This interview has major value. So once again, enjoy this, check it out, and give me your feedback if you can, and if you will, that would be great. Once again, this is Wyatt Jackson from Wyatt Jackson 2.0, and very open, very creative, and very much into collaboration. Thanks. Take care. Yes, y'all. Interview with Erin Patton, number 001. And let me just get started first. If you could just tell me a little bit about what you do, the name of your company, the generic stuff, but, I already know it, but I just want to get it on recording.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I consider myself to be a direct beneficiary of the principles outlined in Think and Grow Rich. Native of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the youngest of 3, grew up in a single-parent household, and education was absolutely the key foundation that my mom established, and the ability to build relationships and positive relationships with individuals, to yield success. And I carried that, thought with me. Attended Northwestern University in Chicago. Started my career working in marketing and public relations at Burrell in Chicago. Went over to Edelman to get some general market experience, and then subsequently on to Nike, where I had the fortune of meeting and working with Michael Jordan and launching the Jordan brand business, where I worked for 5 years directly with him to build that brand and effectively launch it before coming back to New York, where I worked at Edelman again as Senior VP of Diversity Marketing before starting the Mastermind Group 2 years later. And essentially, the Mastermind Group is an integrated marketing and communications think tank, and we're based in New York. And I was encouraged to name my company the Mastermind Group after reading Think and Grow Rich, and essentially the principle outlined in that book, which talks about the coordination of knowledge and effort toward a definitive purpose. And that is essentially what we do for our clients in building a strategic plan, strong understanding of the consumer. And our focus is on the urban mindset, which is a psychographic more so than a demographic, based on shared lifestyle interest, and given the huge impact that urban culture has had on the global economy. We consider ourselves to be innovators to help companies better understand who this consumer is and to create the right plans, strategies, relationships, and resources, and synchronize those activities to ultimately create successful programs and campaigns for our clients.
Fantastic. Okay, well, you kind of answered the first question, but I'm just going to kick it anyway. When you first read Think and Grow Rich, what was the impact that it had on your thinking? Like, did it gradually kick in, or did you immediately stop the press and say, look, we have to revamp, we have a whole paradigm shift here, we're going to go about it in a different way? I mean, well, how did the Think and Grow Rich philosophy
it's funny because, you know, in my career, I've always been very much focused on creating alliances and building relationships, and not just, you know, networking for networking sense, but really understanding how like-minded people attract to one another. And so during my years at Nike in particular, and I was responsible for a brand that had such a huge place in urban culture, certainly in pop culture, but the things that I was able to do while I was there was based on forging alliances and partnerships in the music industry, you know, at the grassroots level, in the urban communities with mom and pop, you know, sneaker stores, and really looking at all of the key relationships that were necessary to take my thoughts and take my ideas and take my strategies and give them an actual place where they could flourish. And in order to do that, I've always recognized that it's about your ideas and your strategies, but also more importantly, having the right relationships and resources in place to execute and to expand infinitely your knowledge base by virtue of those alliances and associations that you create for yourself, because we cannot be the be-all and end-all for our ideas and our thoughts. It's only when we create alliances with like-minded people that we're really able to advance that intelligence and advance our goals and objectives. So that was something that I always carried with me throughout my career. And so when I decided to start my company, believe it or not, the name The Mastermind Group is something that I established. Was actually in the shower one day and thinking about what my value was, you know, looking at myself as a brand. And what uniquely separated me from others in the advertising or marketing or public relations field. And it was really based on the fact that I've always been highly strategic. You know, I've always come up with great plans and great concepts and great ideas. And then I've always been able to pick up the phone and call this person and say, build with me on this so we can execute this. And so in that sense, the mastermind was something that really started to resonate with me. And then the notion of a group for me meant I can't do this alone. And then subsequent to that, I was in Barnes & Noble one day and stumbled across this book and literally opened up the table of contents and saw the Mastermind Group. And that's when I was floored. You know, that's when my jaw dropped. And then when I started to read it, I saw that I was reading my existence. And the formula for my success, you know, at that particular point. So once I started to read it, it really just reinforced the reality that was being shaped in front of me, and for me underscored the necessity for me to really be successful. I began to know that I had a strong need to, you know, build the right relationships and alliances, but I knew that what I was doing was something that was a secret principle, and I felt like it was something that, you know, was disclosed to me in a very unique way. So I began to go about the business of essentially creating my business model around that principle.